Had skull of ape and fierce baboon, and panther spotted like the moon. Feathers of the horned owl, daw, pie, and other fatal fowl. Fruit from the fig tree never sown, saved from cypress never grown. All within the mess I cast. Stir the cauldron, stir it fast. Nance Redfern then advanced, and taking from her wallet a small clay image, tricked out in attire intended to resemble that of James Device, plunged several pins deeply into its breast, singing as she did so, thus: "In his likeness it is moulded, in his vestments 'tis enfolded. Ye may know it as I show it. In its breast sharp pins I stick, and I drive them to the quick. They are in, they are in, and the wretch's pangs begin. Now his heart feels the smart, through his marrow, sharp as arrow. Torments quiver, he shall shiver. He shall burn, he shall toss, and he shall turn. Unavailing the ache shall rack him, cramps attack him. He shall wail, strength shall fail, till he die miserably." As Nance retired, another witch advanced, and sang thus: "Over mountain, over valley, over woodland, over waste, on our gallant broomsticks riding, we have come with frantic haste. And the reason of our coming, as ye wot well, is to see who this night, as new made witch, to our ranks shall added be." A wild burst of laughter followed this address, and another wizard succeeded, chanting thus: "Beat the water, Demdike's daughter, till the tempest gather o'er us, till the thunders strike with wonder, and the lightnings flash before us. Beat the water, Demdike's daughter, ruin seize our foes and slaughter." As the words were uttered, a woman stepped from out the circle, and throwing back the grey hooded cloak in which she was enveloped, disclosed the features of Elizabeth Device. Her presence in that fearful assemblage occasioned no surprise to Alizon, though it increased her horror. A pail of water was next set before the witch, and a broom being placed in her hand, she struck the lymph with it, sprinkling it aloft, and uttering this spell: "Mount, water, to the skies, bid the sudden storm arise, bid the pitchy clouds advance, bid the forked lightnings glance, bid the angry thunder growl, bid the wild wind fiercely howl, bid the tempest come amain. Thunder, lightning, wind, and rain." As she concluded, clouds gathered thickly overhead, obscuring the stars that had hitherto shone down from the heavens. The wind suddenly arose, but in lieu of dispersing the vapours, it seemed only to condense them. A flash of forked lightning cut through the air, and a loud peal of thunder rolled overhead. Then the whole troop sang together: "Beat the water, Demdike's daughter, see the tempest gathers o'er us, lightning flashes, thunder crashes, wild winds sing in lusty chorus." For a brief space the storm raged fearfully, and recalled the terror of that previously witnessed by Alizon, which she now began to think might have originated in a similar manner. The wind raved round the ruined pile, but its breath was not felt within it, and the rain was heard descending in deluging showers without, though no drop came through the open roof. The thunder shook the walls and pillars of the old fabric, and threatened to topple them down from their foundations, but they resisted the shocks. The lightning played around the tall spire springing from this part of the fane, and ran down from its shattered summit to its base without doing any damage. The red bolts struck the ground innocuously, though they fell at the very feet of the weird assemblage, who laughed wildly at the awful tumult. While the storm was at its worst, while the lightning was flashing fiercely, and the thunder rattling loudly, Mother Chattox, with a chafing dish in her hand, advanced towards the fire, and placing the pan upon it, threw certain herbs and roots into it, chanting thus: "Here is juice of poppy bruised, with black hellebar infused. Here is mandrake's bleeding root, mixed with moonshade's deadly fruit.
Viper's bag with venom filled, taken ere the beast was killed. Adder's skin and raven's feather, with shell of beetle blent together. Orange wort and barbatus, hemlock black and poisonous. Horn of harps and storax red, lapwing's blood at midnight shed. In the heated pan they burn, and to pungent vapours turn. By this strong suffumigation, by this potent invocation, spirits, I compel you here. All who list my call, appear." After a moment's pause, she resumed as follows: "White robed brethren who of old nightly paced yon cloisters cold, sleeping now beneath the mould, I bid ye rise. Abbots, by the weakling feared, by the credulous revered, who this mighty fabric reared, I bid ye rise. And thou last and guilty one, by thy lust of power undone, whom in death thy fellows shun, I bid thee come. And thou, fair one, who disdained to keep the vows thy lips had feigned, and thy snowy garments stained, I bid thee come." During this invocation, the glee of the assemblage ceased, and they looked around in hushed expectation of the result. Slowly then did a long procession of monkish forms, robed in white, glide along the aisles and gather round the altar. The brass covered stones within the presbytery were lifted up, as if they moved on hinges, and from the yawning graves beneath them arose solemn shapes, 16 in number, each with mitre on head and crosier in hand, which likewise proceeded to the altar. Then a loud cry was heard, and from a side chapel burst the monkish form in mouldering garments which Dorothy had seen enter the oratory, and which would have mingled with its brethren at the altar, but they waved it off menacingly. Another piercing shriek followed, and a female shape, habited like a nun, and of surpassing loveliness, issued from the opposite chapel, and hovered near the fire. Content with this proof of her power, Mother Chattox waved her hand, and the long shadowy train glided off as they came. The ghostly abbots returned to their tombs, and the stones closed over them. But the shades of Paslew and Isole de Heton still lingered. The storm had well nigh ceased. The thunder rolled hollowly at intervals, and a flash of lightning now and then licked the walls. The weird crew had resumed their rites, when the door of the Lady Chapel flew open, and a tall female figure came forward. Alizon doubted if she beheld aright. Could that terrific woman, in the strangely fashioned robe of white, girt by a brazen zone graven with mystic characters, with a long glittering blade in her hand, infernal fury in her wildly rolling orbs, the livid hue of death on her cheeks, and the red brand upon her brow, could that fearful woman, with the black dishevelled tresses floating over her bare shoulders, and whose gestures were so imperious, be Mistress Nutter? Mother no longer, if it indeed were she. How came she there amid that weird assemblage? Why did they so humbly salute her, and fall prostrate before her, kissing the hem of her garment? Why did she stand proudly in the midst of them, and extend her hand, armed with the knife, over them? Was she their sovereign mistress, that they bent so lowly at her coming, and rose so reverentially at her bidding? Was this terrible woman now seated on a dilapidated tomb, and regarding the dark conclave with the eye of a queen who held the lives in her hand? Was she her mother? Oh, no, no, it could not be. It must be some fiend that usurped her likeness. Still, though Alizon thus strove to discredit the evidence of her senses, and to hold all she saw to be delusion and the work of darkness, she could not entirely convince herself, but imperfectly recalling the fearful vision she had witnessed during her former stupor, began to connect it with the scene now passing before her. The storm had wholly ceased, and the stars again twinkled down through the shattered roof. Deep silence prevailed, broken only